Okay. Hi, everyone. We're back here with Dr. Khan after our spectrum talk, and we were focusing on the different activities that kids with special needs could be doing at home with parents. Dr. Khan described a little bit about the hand-over-hand experiences, independent, we're working towards independent thinking and motor skills and hand skills and eye skills and all those things. She also shared a little bit about the verbal and, physical prompts. There's a lot of different things that she gave us suggestions to help these families. I did have a couple questions, Dr. Khan, about the things that we just spoke about. What age level do you begin this at, and for how long?
So, people would say that there's a very, people start saying that you can see the autism sign. Let's talk about autism or other signs in very early ages, for example, in 6 or 9 months. So, but I would say that if we just see the definition of the autism, so you need to take some time for the child. Because child are fluctuating. Sometimes few children are good in learning few skills, few children are not good in learning some certain skill. If we talk about other children also, sometimes they are late talker, not late talker, but late walker. Even then they're doing very well in their life. So if you feel that your child is having some kind of issue like that, or the child is diagnosed in early stage, because we have some tools which you can use to diagnose the child. But there are certain things, this is about autism, but what about those children who have other disabilities? I mean, what about intellectual disabilities? What about developmental disabilities? So you will see the sign and symptom, and I would like to do a session on that also, because we just have a new, if you know about that, we have a new developmental milestone sheet now. It's a new, and it's just, I think it came just come up 1 or 2 months are passed and it just came out, and that have new criteria, even that have criteria for autism also. And I would love to do a session on that, because people should know that what is a different or new method, or you could say new criteria for developmental milestone, that a child should achieve certain thing at certain age. That is basically a developmental milestone, and that is a worldwide criteria, but things could differ. But what if the signs and symptoms are clear that the child is going toward intellectual disabilities or stuff like this? So I can say that from 1 year, if this is the case, a parent should start doing that thing, because there are few sometimes clear signs and symptoms that the child is not responding, if the child is not responding to the need. So if you are feeling that, then if you have something in your mind, then you can start doing this activity, because diagnosis is a lengthy process, and you cannot wait for that long that the child will go to a certain age. Or even if you're doing this thing, then you're helping child, you're doing some fun activity with your children. So instead of waiting for something, why don't you start doing all the activity with the child? So if a child is, you could say 1 year old, and you're think that the child is lacking somehow, so start doing this activity with the children. And don't think that a child is 5 years old, you cannot do this activity. You can even do this activity with the children also. So because the verbal, or you could say speech age of the child is of 1 year, think about that. In developmental milestone, we have age for everything. We have, if for example, if a chronological age is 5 years of the age, it doesn't mean that developmentally the child is a 5 year old. Maybe on fine motor skill the child is 2 years old, maybe on occupational the child is 3 years old, or maybe the self-independent the child has certain age, or maybe on the speech the child is 2 or 3 months old. So just think about that and try to incorporate that thing in your daily communication, because in any way you have to talk, you're talking to your child, because you have bed, and if the child is not sleeping and you try so hard to make the child sleep, and child is lying with you for 2 or 3 hours, or maybe 1 hour, why not start doing some activities? Why not start take out a book and start this activity with your child, and just make that time useful? And that is a very good, that will help your child to sleep also, and building his vocabulary, building his intelligence. Just you're giving him more things, you're giving him more vocabulary, you're helping him out the process, you're letting him know that you're there for him. That is important. You're just making your bond stronger with the child.
Well, and I think for our son, he's 20, we still do a lot of those things. When we leave the house, we talk about, oh, look at the park, or look at this, because we want to give him those little markers, kind of, so that if anything ever happened, he got lost, he could tell people how to get back home. And so those landmarks, those different things around, it helps you. And as you're communicating, if you're constantly communicating and you're constantly playing these little games to to engage with them and get them to understand. I can tell you that that has never gone away for us for 20 years of Landon's life. We've done that every day. It is constant communicating, constant reminding and prompting and practicing. And sometimes we get it and he does great, and then he'll teach other people. And sometimes he just doesn't get it, and we just have to keep going. So there is a developmental delay.
Not responding. Like, for example, I'm working with a child and he don't respond to me at that time. Next day he's doing the same thing, but at that time he's a little bit, because children are stubborn by nature, so they're not doing that thing. They know that we are doing it wrong, but even they are doing because they have to maintain their autonomy. Don't forget the fact that the child is a full functioning human being. Don't ever forget that thing. He understands everything. He know that what I'm doing, and what are the consequences of things. But what we are teaching to the child, we are teaching the child command follow. What we are teaching him to take the responsibility of his own action. For example, if a child spills something on the floor, then ask your child to clean that floor. I mean, at
Agreed.
certain ages, this behavior is not acceptable. If the child is hitting, rightly stop that child over there. Don't allow that child to hit you. Don't allow, because one day the child is going to be of 20 years of age and he will hit you. What you're going to do about that? So stop, because those things who are no for adults, they're also no for the children. So if you want to behave well, if you want to behave that your child well behave and they're independent, start doing that thing from a younger age.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, we look back now at 20 years old and we say, I wish we would have started doing these things at an earlier age, so that by the time he got to 20, he had a more independent life. And we're realizing now that there's a lot of families out there that need to hear this, because then they too will jump on educating their child at an early age, not thinking like, my husband and I always say that we just hurdles because of our emotions. Like we are emotional about our kids, and we don't want them to get hurt, so we protect. And sometimes we minimize their ability to learn because of what we're doing. So we're like the biggest hurdle. So we have to remove ourselves. And that's where like the therapy and, you know, having somebody like Dr. Khan in there, she can be the one to push your child to their fullest potential. And because there's not that same emotional connection with like the parent has, she's able to get to the result faster because she's willing to like just keep pushing. Yeah.
The child cannot emotionally manipulate us. Actually, we have connection. Not of course we are not like we are not parents, but we have to like act a person who are going to love them. Okay, we are not going to be behaving bad with the child. We are not going to do that. But even then, what's wrong is wrong. For example, you have heard from that I'm working on a child who is on feeding now. What my step is now, I'm going to take him toward the hard food now. Like you might remember that I mentioned that case with you. So what he used to do, he used to be just sounds like that. So he can vomit. And when he will vomit, maybe he learned that the moment he vomit, the person is not going to give him the food. And you need to keep this thing in your mind that if the child is hungry, he can go and eat his own food. These things not work with these children. These children will remain hungry for whole day, maybe for 2 days. So you need to intervene in that thing. You have to make sure that the child eat that thing. So he's doing that. And I said that, okay, if you're going to take out anything from your mouth, I'm going to wash that thing and I'm going to let you eat that thing again. Because I washed it already. But the thing is that you have to eat, because that is lunchtime. You're not going to eat after, and nobody's going to feed you. And just I'm making sure that he is independent and that skill also. So he's trying his level best, but still he used that tricks. Like his mother used to tell me that he would vomit that food and he would hit me and he will throw all the food on the floor. I mean, still he do that thing, and I know I have these things in my mind, so I just keep a big tray on that food so that the moment I spill anything, I just give them over there, and I just wash and give him over there. So we have to, keep everything in our mind, but he need to understand that I have to eat that, because at the end of the day, we have the best interest of the child. We don't want the child to malnutrition, because those children who don't eat, they have very weaker body. They have a lot of malnutrition.
Yep.
And we don't want that for our children.
Nope. Well, I think you did such an amazing job today explaining all of this, and I think you're going to help a lot of families that are looking for answers as to what to do next. We do have a lot of people at the pre-diagnosis stage, and they're like, where do I even start? So this is a great starting point for those families or the kids that have, or families that have nonverbal kids. This is a great tool to use to get started. And then as you're going through it, you may learn that there's other things that you need to incorporate into that. And those are things that, Dr. Khan will help us with as we move through our journey here. So Dr. Khan, thank you for today's session. I know tomorrow we will be doing our parent group. Can't wait. Our support group, and please join us. We will be hosting these during the week or on Saturdays, as well as our support groups on Sunday mornings. Thank you.